and we can see that this is going to be the result, and we do not wish to keep any kind of border right property in the last list item that we had created here. We want to remove this border right property from the last list element. So let's head back to our project, and here we will be now mentioning the last child, where we will be mentioning the border right property should be set to none. Press Ctrl S, reload, and we can see that we are successful in removing the last border right property from the last list element right over here. And we may change this color here. So let's head back, and here we may set this color to something else like this one, this 666. It will be a little bit of darker shade of gray, and we may set the font size to 0.95 rem. So we are practically reducing the font size. Let's head back and reload, and we can see that this is going to be the obvious result. We have practically created the menu holder, and on the other hand, let's remove the height that we had used earlier. As I had mentioned you earlier, that we are practically imposing some height into our element in an order to understand that everything is working quite well. Now, if it is not needed, we won't be using any this kind of properties like height. So in the first case, we will be removing this height element from here, from this nav holder. We have already removed this height element from the logo holder. Let's now head back and see what happens now. This is going to be the exact result. Now into this nav holder section, we had made usage of this padding top of 1 rem. So instead of using it right over here, we will be making usage of another padding bottom properties, and let's see that we have made it 1 rem. So here it goes. Everything now works quite well. We have already made usage of a height of 50 pixels for this menu holder. So let's discard any kind of height attribute being used here. So we will be discarding this height attribute from this menu holder. From the logo holder, the height property is practically discarded, and the same thing goes for this nav holder. So from every possible cases, we have discarded the height property. Let's press Ctrl S and let's reload, and we can see that this is going to be the obvious result. Everything remains in a perfect place. Now here comes the anomaly. As we can see right over here, that we have created this menu holder, and it is overlaying on the top of the bottom laying image holder that we had created earlier, and we have already set all those menu items inside this menu holder div element. But the question lies somewhere else. If we have a closer look, we can see that the menu items not exactly positioned in the exact center of the div element that we had created in this respect. If we have a look into our template, we can see that this is practically going to be the possible layout as been mentioned right over here. But here in this particular case, we can see that the menus are a little bit of right tilted. It is practically shifting towards the right instead of putting themselves into the exact middle of the div element. What is happening actually here? Here we had created a mother container which is known as menu holder, and next we had created two distinct child elements, the logo holder and the nav holder. So all these menu list items, those are practically appearing inside this nav holder. Definitely, whenever it is displayed into your browser, the menu list items are practically orienting their codes in an accordance to the nav holder that we had created here, not in an accordance to the main parent menu holder that we had created earlier. So that is why all these menu list items are practically shifted into the exact middle of the div nav holder, which is holding them all together. This is why we can see that the menu list items are practically right shifted or right tilted instead of adjusting itself or adjusting these menu list items in the exact center of the parent holder, which is known as menu holder. Now within this logo holder, practically we may make usage of some kind of image source. This is the folder name, which is known as images first of all, and next we will be making usage of this file name here along with the extension, and we may set the width of this image to something like 50 pixels and keeping the height of the image to 50 pixels, and we may set an alt tag. There it goes. Let's press Ctrl S and reload, and we can see that this is going to be the result. In this particular case, we may make some exemption into the padding top that we had created in this respect. So we won't be using any kind of padding top in this manner. There it goes. Everything comes normal into position. So if we now remove these background colors that we had made usage of earlier, so here it goes. This is going to be the result here. Here comes the logo and here comes the menu items. As we can see right over here, we may make usage of something additional, like instead of keeping them into a full version of a width of 100%. So if we now keep them to up to 80%. So if we now set this width to 80%, and we have already made usage of this display block command, so we will be making usage of this margin of 0 auto. We are just experimenting what happens in this particular case. So if we now reload, we can see that this is going to be the result. This is how we are practically able to create the menu holder along with the logo into the menu holder, into the topmost menu holder section, which is overlaying on the top of this image holder section. In the next case, we need to create this learning is fun part, where we can see that this is going to be a text document which is in the exact middle of the div element that we had created in this respect. The question is how to create it. We will be seeing that into our next video. Stay tuned.